Since the dawn of human history, a secret society has been working to free the human soul and connect it to the universal consciousness. This society is said to trace its origins back to the legendary Atlantis. And Zarathustra, the Persian prophet, is believed to be one of its great masters. Previously, in our exploration of the legends surrounding Atlantis, we encountered a group that, from the beginning of human history, has sought to maintain balance in the universe and help humans reconnect with their own essence. We found this book during one of our searches, and in the final sections of the book, Zarathustra, the Persian prophet, is mentioned, identified as a messenger of the children of the Law of One. If you watched the first video about Jon Peniel's narratives, you'll know that he claimed to have written his book after years of training in a temple hidden within the Himalayas. He had first encountered the teachings of the temple's inhabitants on a television program, and after a long journey, he managed to locate the temple. Peniel soon discovered that the individual who had explained these teachings on the TV program was the leader of the temple's residents. This person later became Peniel's primary teacher, and the book's final sections consist of discussions between the two, mainly questions Peniel asked to better understand the teachings. These teachings are said to originate from the children of the Law of One in Atlantis, and the temple residents are portrayed as the modern-day guardians of this tradition. They believe in a form of karma, which functions as a cause and effect principle throughout the world. However, they explain that not every unfortunate event someone experiences should be attributed to bad karma. Some difficult situations occur to expand an individual's capacities and serve as opportunities for them to correct past mistakes. The general principle is that while life's events are beyond one's control, how one responds to them is a choice that defines their path. This approach aligns with the ancient Persian philosophy of good thoughts, good words, good deeds, which serves as a guide for individuals' reactions along their journey of self-growth. Another key belief Peniel presents as central to the children of the Law of One's philosophy in Atlantis is the power of thought. According to this belief, whatever one thinks of can come into reality. Similar to Zarvan, the ancient primary Persian god, who concentrated on his inner strength to achieve his desires. Peniel uses the example of monks who, during harsh winter conditions in the Himalayas, sit without adequate clothing and generate the warmth they need to survive through inner strength. Peniel explains that negative thoughts gain more power on Earth because dark forces, which serve as metaphysical supporters of these thoughts, have a greater influence here. Thus, someone who seeks to cultivate positive thinking must exert more energy to combat these negative forces. The ultimate goal is to connect the soul to the universal consciousness, a force that embodies life in the entire universe and is mistakenly identified as God in religions. In reality, it resembles a single spirit that connects all particles of the world. The interconnection of all beings through this universal consciousness has led to an emphasis on kindness and benevolence toward all living things, as each person represents a part of oneself. Therefore, kindness toward others is seen as kindness toward oneself. This approach to unconditional love is presented as a sign of connection to the universal consciousness. Those who give their love freely, without pride or selfishness, are much closer to this consciousness than those who act out of personal interest. Peniel compares these people to the sun, a continuously shining force that withholds its light from no one, illuminating the world regardless of whether it receives anything in return. According to Peniel's writings, the children of the Law of One established their first temples in Atlantis, and as the civilization collapsed, they dispersed to various lands across the earth. The temple that hosted Peniel in the Himalayas is said to be one of the oldest among them. The residents of these temples continuously practice and teach their traditions, and when the time comes, go as representatives of the children of the Law of One to introduce people to the universal consciousness and ways to connect with it. They generally avoid public recognition and have served the advancement of civilization quietly, without any mention of their core beliefs. Members among them include well-known scientists, scholars, authors, and artists throughout history. Within their community, they follow a hierarchy in which teachings are passed down from master to apprentice, a method similar to that of the ancient Persian sages. Most of these hidden residents are reincarnated souls from the children of the Law of One. They were members of this group in previous lives, and after rebirth, found their way back to the temples to relearn the teachings and join the mission of awakening human souls. This path is described as a painful sacrifice for human liberation, often accompanied by great personal suffering for these missionaries. Peniel himself is introduced as one of these cases. If you watched our previous video, you may recall that, on the brink of a suicide attempt, he accidentally encountered a television program about a temple in the Himalayas. Soon afterwards, he learned that the channel broadcasting the show didn't actually exist, and that he was the only one who had seen the program. Years later, when he discussed this program with his teacher, he was told that as one of the reincarnated masters, Peniel had a special mission. The temple residents realized that the time was critical and used their hidden advanced technology to broadcast waves directly to the television he was watching. In other words, the program was created and transmitted exclusively for him. This is an example of how those who achieved spiritual enlightenment in past lives might be scattered across the world today, unaware of their true nature. And one mission of the children of the Law of One is to identify and invite them back for further training, just as Peniel was invited. It is said that most reincarnated masters receive their invitation at the age of 21, at which point they become aware of their mission, rejoin the children of the Law of One, and resume their journey from where they left off. Another master, who has reincarnated multiple times to guide people to the universal consciousness, is known as Christ, who, in ancient Egyptian texts, is also referred to as Thoth. He is introduced as one of the great masters and the most important teacher of the children of the Law of One, reincarnating several times throughout different phases of human history to bring light into humanity's dark world. Yet, despite his efforts, his teachings were misunderstood and distorted, with some exploiting them to pursue wealth, pleasure, or power. In Peniel's book, Christ and his family are depicted as members of the Essenes, a group of the children of the Law of One who followed the principles taught by Zoroaster, the Persian prophet, living thousands of years before Christ. In a portion of Peniel's dialogues with his master, the temple residents of the children of the Law of One are referred to as the forces of light. In descriptions similar to those of Mani's teachings, they are introduced as bearers of light who are targets of dark forces. Yet this threat doesn't only apply to the masters in special temples. Anyone who pursues enlightenment becomes a target for dark forces. Because of this, the bearers of light, or those who seek it, must establish a network of supporters to stay on the righteous path. At the same time, dark forces employ many methods to lead people astray, the most important of which is tempting individuals to believe their path is the best and most correct. Thus, darkness, with its dominion over this world, controls all forms of human communication and education, convincing people to follow familiar paths rather than taking risks or exploring new ones, making them afraid to make mistakes, which impedes their progress. The final discussions in the book address the human experience of death and the end of the world. Peniel's teacher describes death as entering a void and then seeing a light toward which one should move. On this journey, forces will try to distract you from the light, but you must continue toward it. When you reach it, you'll face a choice: either merge with the light or reincarnate and return to Earth. This decision is guided by your inner voice. Also, the end of the world is described similarly to a religious apocalypse. The skies blaze with fire, mountains collapse, and waters cover the earth. However, these events are not meant to punish humanity, but to cleanse the earth and restore the balance dark forces have disrupted. These cosmic transformations are aimed at purifying the earth and aiding the renewal of nature. In this narrative of the world's end, no one can prevent the earth's cleansing. Still, those who live in harmony with nature and the universal consciousness will be spared. The key recommendation is to seek communities where people show kindness and care for each other and nature. People who, whether knowingly or not, are connected to the universal consciousness and will be protected from the natural calamities of the end times.